I'm really delighted to be here to celebrate the best that the stone industry has to offer in sustainable and exemplary design. So we're going to be hearing from some of the architects about the projects that were the winners of the various categories in the Stone Federation's Natural Stone Awards, which were held last December at the Leonardo Royal Tower Bridge Hotel. Of course, these awards really are a key feature of the natural stone industry's calendar, and there are a number of different categories, including new build with separate categories for traditional load-bearing use of stone and for cladding, interiors, landscape, repair and restoration, carving, lettering and sculpture, and craftsmanship. Now, at the award ceremony, it was announced that there would be another category, the Industry's Choice Award, that would be presented here at this event. So this is what we're building up to. At the end of this session, we will be presenting that award, and voting has been coming in thick and fast, so it'll be really exciting to reveal the winner. But first of all, we're going to take a deeper dive into some of these wonderful projects that won awards at the event this year. We're going to hear from Neil Matthew, Senior Associate Landscape Architect at Gillespies, who's going to begin our session by telling us a lot more about Elephant Park in Elephant and Castle here in London. Now, this was the winner of the Natural Stone Awards category for landscaping, commercial and public realm. Now, I don't have a favourite because I'm impartial, of course, but I do really love this project. As you can see from the picture, it has 300 tonnes of prima porphyry stone layered to mimic around 2 metre high rocky outcrops, complete with water streams and pump-activated jets and slides. And as the award judges pointed out, they said the scheme provides a safe, tactile and aesthetically pleasing haven of considerable community benefit and enjoyment. And certainly I know that my children would be absolutely thrilled to be playing around there. Okay, so looking forward to hearing from Neil. We'll also hear from Hilary Caulfield Wright, Director of Caulfield Wright Architects, about her project at Lenaboy in Malahide, County Dublin in Ireland, which won the interiors, commercial and residential category. Now, as you can see, this involves a spectacular cantilevered staircase in Carlisle Portuguese limestone. This new bespoke staircase was constructed within a contemporary family home that really has beautiful views over the Irish Sea and Lambie Island. A vertical light flooding in from the overhead skylight really does emphasise the really exquisite form of the staircase, which every stone was meticulously cut by hand. So really looking forward to hearing more from Hilary. Also, Ingrid Petit, Associate of Feilden Fowles, will then tell us about the Fratry at Carlisle Cathedral, winner of the Repair and Restoration Ecclesiastical category, where infill ashlar was meticulously dimensioned to bond with the original coarse heights of the surrounding build, salvaging and reusing some of the sandstone blocks from a 19th century porch that it replaced. So it's a really sensitively approached project involving cleaning using applied, peelable latex, selective identing, lime mortar, repointing some of the original internal masonry. And I'm sure that Ingrid is going to tell us a lot more in detail about what went on. And finally, we're going to hear from Robert Kennett, Director of Eric Parry Architects, about Phase 4 of Chelsea Barracks in London, which was the winner of the new build modern style stone cladding category. So it comprised of a pretty complicated and extensive package of externals over 3 buildings arranged around a private courtyard, and each building is 6 stories with 2-storey penthouse set back at the upper level. So pretty complicated parapets with dentral detailing, and Robert's going to tell us a lot more about that as well. So, as we've seen in some of these highlights, all the projects in the Natural Stone Awards are really delightful and eye-catching, just really showing how creative the use of stone can be and how it is being used in architecture today. So who doesn't want the beauty and longevity of such low-carbon sustainable materials such as stone? And If you haven't already done so, after we finish, do go and be inspired by the Natural Stone Awards project in the project gallery, which is just next door, and take a special look at the project that will be revealed as the industry's choice in under an hour's time. See if you agree with the choice. Anyway, you can also help yourself to one of the souvenir programmes which is presented by the Stone Federation Great Britain. But first, I've given them a preview. Please do give a very warm welcome to Neil Matthews, Senior Associate Landscape Architect at Gillespies. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you very much. So I'm Neil Matthew. I'm a Senior Associate Landscape Architect at Gillespies Landscape Architects. As landscape architects, we use natural stone on many of our projects, but we very typically use it as a paved surface. Elephant Park has given us a wonderful opportunity to explore using natural stone in a more expressive and more exciting way to create a new water and sand play feature at the heart of a new park. Elephant Park is a residential development in South London, in Elephant and Castle. It's on the site of the former Haygate estate, which was a council estate built in the 70s, that's undergone a massive regeneration project led by Lend-Lease, who are our client, delivering 3,000 new homes, many jobs, and all of that sort of new residential development is built around a new park which sits at the heart. And that park really is a green oasis within the centre of this master plan. It provides open lawn, planting, rich planting at the edge with various biodiversity and rain gardens, and it provides a real resource for not only the new residents in this development, but also the residents of the surrounding areas of Southwark who have taken this park into their heart. Sitting within the park is a significant requirement for play. This came about during planning, but also was something that we were very keen on providing as really one of the key benefits of this new park. And our brief for this from our client was that they wanted something that offered a great degree of play value, but something that felt like it's totally integrated with the design of the park itself. So we had an idea to look at natural materials. How could we incorporate natural stone? How could we incorporate water and sand to create a landscape that is fully playable, offers a great deal of play value, but that feels totally integrated with the actual design of the park? So we had this idea of something quite natural, a sort of a rocky outcrop, something that could be climbed, that had water as part of it. So we started working with Fountains Workshop, who are preeminent in designing interactive water features, including play, and also the artist Mel Chantry, who has a lot of experience working both with water and also with natural stone. And it was a wonderful kind of collaborative process that we went through with Mel and Fountains Workshop to start to think about how could we arrange this stone in a way that gives a lot of value, how do we integrate the water to flow through this space, flow around the various rock features that we were designing. And one of the methods that proved very useful for this was actually looking at how we could model this space in plasticine. So we sat with Mel, we sat with plasticine and various kind of tools to start to sculpt it and work it at scale to really start to imagine how this space could work. We included people, trees within that model. And that model was then shipped to Italy, to North Italy, to Trentino. And we worked with the local quarry there, Stone Group, in Albiano, and Hardscape were the kind of stone suppliers for this. They helped facilitate this. And we worked with the quarry to start to select stones. This unfortunately happened during the height of the pandemic, which hit northern Italy very hard at the beginning. So it was initially envisaged that this would be a process where a lot of the team would go out and help select stones. And we ended up rising to this challenge of the pandemic that reduced numbers to look at how we could use technology to set up static cameras to look at how the stones were being selected and various video calls to actually start to select the stones that we were going to use. One of the reasons for picking the porphyry is that it has a very good quality, both in terms of its durability, the variation within its tone, its natural skid resistance within the surface as it comes quarried from a source. And we started to select colourful stones that could be interlocked together to create this this sort of installation that we had imagined with Mel back looking at the plasticine models. To start to realize how these individual unique pieces of stone might start to be put together, we had the quarry dry lay a lot of the stone in their car park. So they set up a number of the kind of the mounds, the flat areas were all set up within that car park, one to one. Those pieces were then all numbered up, packed up, and then shipped to Elephant and Castle, and then rebuilt as a kind of a 3D jigsaw puzzle to realize the installation as it started to come together. So once we kind of went through that construction process, we realized that there were adjustments needed, but fortunately we were able, with the very skilled contractors who were laying it, to make adjustments and to create this this sort of topography of stone pieces and stone stacks, which integrates water that flows in a more gentle pattern, but also includes jets and various sort of surprise interactive water elements that really bring that play value to the fore. Something that we were really strongly minded to do through the process of developing the design was to create something that, whilst it's not in use as play, could still be used by the public and could be still a place that people will want to enjoy and engage with, and to see the beauty of this natural stone, both in its dry state and then also as the colours and textures are revealed through the water running over the surface. One of the challenges that we have worked through in this installation and also throughout our designs at Elephant Park is there are a number of existing trees which have been retained, which obviously are important for the area's character and its biodiversity. And we worked closely with arboriculturalists and also with engineers in designing the foundations, positioning the stones, so that these trees are retained and are able to thrive for another 50 years to come and more. Fancy's Workshop and Mel designed a wonderful set of kind of moments of water through this Elephant Springs installation. Streams, pumps, and interactive jets really provide a great deal of play value and activity for kids, which are then supplemented with sand play as well, which gives a great opportunity for kids to use their imagination, to start to think about how they can engage and start to be creative. And the mounds for climbing offer a great opportunity for younger kids to explore their environment, explore their kind of motor skills, and to take a little bit of a risk in the way that they play in order to kind of gain that sort of fun and that advantage. And it's been an enormously successful and popular play area. It was opened a couple of years ago during the kind of the spring half term, which was a wonderful sunny day, and within an hour of it being open, it was mobbed with kids who were engaging with this wonderful play installation.
Neil, thank you so much. It's really fascinating. Just before you go, I just want to ask, that kind of remote way of working that you had to adapt to during the pandemic, have you used that in future projects whereby you can have that kind of continuous monitoring of the stone that emerges?
Yes, that's something that we have continued to do. We've realised that that there is the opportunity to engage remotely, actually maybe see things more often than we would have done otherwise. And that's been a really great advantage to be more engaged with the source of the stone as well, as something that we're very passionate about, understanding where the materials that we use are from, and getting to know the people who are actually quarrying these as well.
What was it about that particular stone that made it such an attractive choice? And had you searched through lots of quarries around the world, essentially?
Well, in terms of porphyry, it's the kind of the warmth of the tone, the variety of the tone, its durability and slip resistance. We knew of the quarries in North Italy from a previous project which we had worked on, and we knew that there were not only stone that could be used for paving, but also massive pieces of stone that really excited us as to what possibilities those could offer. So that was really something we had in mind from the outset, was actually this stone is there, it's beautiful, it could be something so exciting.
And it certainly was. Well, thank you very much, Neil. Great to see your project has taken on a real life of its own with all of those children flooding into play. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now please do welcome onto the stage Hilary Caulfield Wright, Director of Caulfield Wright, who's going to talk about Lenaboy in County Dublin.
Thank you, Susanna. Thank you for the Stone Show, for the invitation to speak today. This is a very modest project, so I won't be very long, just a staircase. We were appointed in 2018 to design a new dwelling on the most beautiful site on Dublin Bay. It's an elevated site, south-facing to the rear with a park behind. It adjoins an historic Martello Tower, and to the front it has the most beautiful views of the north coastline of Dublin and Lambay Island and the Irish Sea. We thought a lot about the way you would interact with this exceptional sea view while you're in the house. Broad expanses of sea can be very still and very soothing, but here, so close at hand, the seascape is always in flux. There's a huge tidal differential. We have all kinds of weather in the one day, and the light is always changing. This led us to think about how the building could be very anchored in the moving seascape, but how the stairs could be a dynamic element within the very solid enclosure. There were lots of clues surrounding us on the site. The robust form of the neighbouring stone Martello Tower, one of 29 on the coast of Dublin, the field stone walls that surrounded the tower and our site, the sandy beach and the beautiful shingle sand patterns created by the ebb and the flow of the tide. There's also a very strong and enduring tradition of geometric stone staircases in Irish houses from the 18th and 19th century. Superb examples exist, such as Townley Hall in Castletown. We had to work within some very particular planning constraints on this site externally, so the clients were really keen to commission something very unusual and exceptional for inside their house. And they really liked the idea that the staircase could be something really highly crafted and use the most enduring of all the materials. We developed the concept for the stairs as a journey. There are some small clues in the plan. We splayed the entrance at the front door, and into the hallway we splayed the entrance to the staircase with the handrails at the edges. The stairs is set towards the back of the hall, so it's visible from the entrance, but allows you to walk along and experience the underside of the staircase and the magic of the apparent but false cantilever. The stairs is made in 2 straight flights, a short set of 4 initially, a semicircular landing, and then a straight flight bringing you to the top. The hall is quite bare, and it adopts the tradition seen at Castletown and others, with full-height panelling into which doors are very discreetly placed. The balustrade splay is seen here, which invites you, and the wainscoting continues upwards, again borrowed from Castletown. The experience of travelling up the stairs is mutable. The colour of the stone changes throughout the day. The shadows move and show the form of the steps very clearly, with the top light from the roof light above, sometimes filtered through mature Corsican pine trees next door, contributing to the dynamism of the journey. Immediately when you arrive at the top, you can reconnect with the sea view, but the journey continues around the landing with the continuation of a stone apron and the balustrade to the back of the hallway, where you can look down over the stair, or you can look back out again to the view of the sea. We spent a lot of time working on the form of the steps and the underside of the stairs. It was very important to us that the underside had character, and we developed the profile by looking at the historic modillion shapes, and we wanted to express the riser rebate because of its importance in how the structures of cantilever stairs were advanced in the 17th, 18th centuries. We didn't want the underside to be swept, but we felt the rippling form arising from the shape of the interlock was an important reflection of the tide and the beach. We closely studied the radius of the nosing, and we wanted to have a very sharp edge profile so we could clearly express each stone as a piece and maintain our very pared back aesthetic. The radius of the underside of the step is exactly the same as the splay in the handrails at the start. Our first instinct was to look at Portland stone. That's usually the stone that's used in all of these staircases, but a little bit from cost, but also potentially from our maker. We used a Portuguese limestone called Codical. It's favoured by the stone fabricators. They find it very workable. It has a lot of similarities to Portland, but is a little bit warmer and creamier and a little bit livelier in the surface. We are utterly in awe of the craft. I think that Andre should be here with me. Every single piece was hand carved, no machinery, and he delivers incredible sharpness and precision. The majority of the staircase is installed in the traditional method of a geometric stairs. The first step at the bottom is wider than all the others and is radiused on all the sides, unlike the others. Steps 2, 3, and 4, with number 4 being the very first part of the half landing, were pinned together on site and post-tensioned first before being lifted as a single piece into place. The half landing is almost a semicircle, taking up the splay in the hall. The remaining steps are then individually tailed into the structural wall before post-tensioning. I tried to get Andre to reveal his secrets around post-tensioning, but it's still a little bit of a mystery to me. And it's his trade secret. They've spent a long time developing and refining that process. The image of him on the stairs below Wright is one of my favourites, where you can see his knowledge and confidence in what he's doing is completely evident. The image on the left shows the riser rebate, and I found that intriguing because when they started the staircases originally, I think Palladio in Italy, they were just block on block. But the problem was that the forces coming down were restrained, but the forces going back weren't. So the creation of the interlock, which arose about 100 years later, possibly here in the UK, made the whole prospect much stronger and allowed people to have much, much greater spans in the staircase because the torsion was moved into the whole step and not just into the wall supporting it. The completion of the design was to make as light and elegant a balustrade as we could, using metal spindles and a timber handrail. We came up against some really significant problems with the balustrade. The Irish building regulations are quite similar to the UK regulations, but unfortunately we self-certify and our certification is absolute. So we don't have much space for deviation from absolute standards. We had to persuade our client to appoint a third engineer to the project, just for the purpose of really digging deep into the particular way in which we could reach conformity with Part K. And that involved looking at every aspect of the assembly, not just the usual things like the bar diameter and the depth of embedment, but also the strength in the actual shape given by the curves in the stairs, and how much allowable deflection our clients were willing to be comfortable with in moving around the staircase. We got there. We made it comply. There's 115 spindles, and every single bar is just 12 millimeters in diameter. The stone was drilled on site, and each bar was chemically anchored into the staircase. A thread was made on the bar at a narrow diameter so that the bar itself would conceal the fixing below it. Each bar is also individually fixed into the handrail, which is an oval. We wanted something really tactile at the top of the stairs. The size of the oval was partly proportioned to suit a specific piece of timber that our joiner, Petit, had in his workshop. He did a beautiful job in the perfect alignment of all the spindles, the curved transitions, including making the rise from 900 mils to 115 millimeters on the landing, which is almost imperceptible when you're using the handrail. This work is one of many, many hands. Our team at Caulfield Wright, our clients, the design engineers, Price and Myers and Gaughan, our Irish contractors, including stone people, joiners, but most of all, the exceptional craftsmanship and skill and knowledge of Philippe of Carvero. Andre Schubert in Carvero. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hilary. And yeah, I mean, I was just looking at the real attention to detail there. Just how important is it that you have a really good relationship with your stone contractor?
It's incredible. We know enough to imagine something, but without a contractor who is not only aware and willing, but really confident about what they can do, we can go nowhere. That's all we have.
And you say you're kind of in awe, really, of that talent out there. Do you think there is so much talent still kind of untapped and not realised, perhaps, out in the industry?
I think there is, but I had a chat with Andre last week, and he was saying that inevitably the march of CNC, which everybody I'm sure is familiar with, means that he's under increasing pressure to move away from hand tooling because he can't compete with guys who will produce that with a CNC machine, and I find that really sad.
Yeah, certainly when you see that huge attention to detail. Really impressive. Well, let's give Hilary a round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to welcome onto the stage Ingrid Petit, Associate Feilden Fowles, who's going to present the Fratry, Carlisle Cathedral, and that was an award winner in the Repair and Restoration Ecclesiastical winner. Welcome.
Great. Thank you very much, Suzanne. And thanks for having me today. So I will try to keep it to 10 minutes, and I will talk to you today about the Fratry project, which we worked on for 7 years, I think, from competition to completion for Carlisle Cathedral in the north of England. So when we started the project, this was our kind of red line boundary. We were looking basically at the Fratry building, which is a grade 1 listed building facing the cathedral, which is part of the precinct, all scheduled monument. And the key part of the brief was that this building was not accessible to the public. There was a porch that had been added by GE Street, which was very dark and created very difficult access condition to the building. Therefore, it was mainly closed, but for the undercroft, which was sometimes open as a cafe. As part of the brief, there was also looking at the existing spaces and kind of lifting them up. So some kind of cosmetic changes to the curtains, to the lighting, adding AV, as well as cleaning all the stonework internally. Similarly, in the undercroft, where there was some work on the mechanical and electrical works there. But as I said, the key problem was basically the access to the existing building. So you can see here the kind of ground level, the landscape level, and the main hall, which I've just shown, was kind of 1.5 meters above this, and then the undercroft another 1.5 meters down. And to access it, there was this dark porch that had been added in the past, where there were stairs where the door was. So it was really difficult. It was kind of creating a big trip hazard. And interestingly, when the porch had been added, the stone door had been reversed and lowered. So you can see here, this is the external face of the door, and this is the internal face, which has got the relief that previously you had found externally. And you can just about see here the relieving arch that they used to do this work of reversing the doorway. So when we started looking at the project, it was not a given of where we could make the access, but as you can see on those plans, which are the statement of significance of the fabric, mostly it's high significance, so red, but the porch, because it had been added in recent kind of history. So we started looking at what an access by removing the porch would look like, and ideally we would love to kind of remove this or reverse again this doorway and put it back to its original position. Alongside that, we also tried to understand the relationship between the Fratry building and the cathedral, and looked at its history and realized that they were actually connected together by a cloister, and the cathedral was twice as long than what it is now. So there was this amazing kind of historical work, just looking at this relationship, which had been lost today, where a big tarmac road basically dissected the cathedral from the Fratry, not really inviting anyone to pause in between the two buildings or realize what they were traversing. So when we started on the massing test, we first started some kind of really shy options, looking at building against the north elevation of the Fratry, but very quickly looked at rotating the addition 90 degrees to try to recreate the cloister and therefore reinstate some relationship between the Fratry and the cathedral. We looked at heights, obviously being a scheduled monument site, a Grade 1 listed building. There was a lot of stakeholders involved. So there was a lot of testing, which led us to agree this final concept, which is basically a low-lying pavilion, which creates a welcome space with then a larger kind of taller element, which gives a new circulation space both to the main hall and to the undercroft, including a platform lift. The plan is really kind of simple. It's a large open space, which gives kind of 380 views towards the precinct, then a circulation space, and then the services detailed at the back. So you can see here the 2 stairs and the lift onto the sides, and then how this now is creating a new courtyard between the 2 buildings. The section kind of shows now how we've reversed the existing doorway, put it back to floor level to create a leveled access. And that was an interesting kind of moment on site when we started dismantling the existing doorway, numbering the stone, looking like we even found some of the pencil markings from the original stonemason to kind of carve the stone relief. So all the stone were laid out by an amazing stonemason who was local to Carlisle, called Askins and Little. They kind of meticulously laid all the stones before remantling the doorway, so you can see them during the work and you can see the final piece. So most of the existing stone was reused and just reversed and raised up to link with the new circulation space and bring a step-free access to the main hall. You can see here internally how the existing relieving arch allowed us to kind of key in the existing doorway into the fabric. And this is now the new view from the platform towards the cafe space, with an extensive kind of glazed connection, giving new views towards the cathedral. So these kind of elements kind of connect to the pavilion, which is the single-story element, which also has a stone elevation, which I would talk to you about very briefly. So for the language of this elevation, we draw inspiration from the existing. There's a lot of dropped arches on the sites. And whilst we didn't want it to be too pastiche or too referential, we kind of drew inspiration from the geometry of one of the key windows to the west end of the Fratry, and basically used this geometry and inserted it in a more rectilinear framework. So we kind of played with this language, I suppose, which reflects the remaining of the cloister to the east, and looked at ways to start recessing the dropped arch to play with shadows and enhance the rectilinear framework at the front of the elevation. These are some of the visuals we produced where we tested kind of the depths of the elevation, the kind of like larger bay for the entrance, the stone coursing as well. There was a lot of discussion about whether or not we should express a keystone or not. This arch is actually fully self-supporting and just restrained back to the steel structure which span the pavilion. In terms of the choice for the stone, we wanted something that would complement the stone on site, which is made of various different stone types. We visited various quarries and we settled on a stone called Local Bricks, which is quite local to Carlisle. Why this stone? Because it's got a similar tint, color to the precinct, but it's got these amazing veins which are quite horizontal, which follows the bedding plane. So we went to the quarries, we talked about how to CNC cut the stone. We talked about kind of like how high we could get the stone. We talked about the direction of the bedding plane, because we were quite strong about wanting the bedding plane or the kind of darker lines to follow the arch. And we produced this kind of set of drawing explaining to the contractor and stonemason about how we saw the detail kind of being constructed. On site, there was a lot of collaboration with our main contractor, Kirby Construction, and stonemason, Asking and Little. There was some mock-ups made to ensure that everyone was happy about what was going to be cut and installed. There was an amazing work with the stonemason in refining some of the last details around the stonework. So you can see here how joints between key stone blocks are hidden by a leading edge kind of stone. You can see some of the drip details, which again we refined in collaboration with the stonemason. And here is the stone being installed on site. This is the project in completion. So it was completed during the pandemic in July 2020, which was amazing to have this courtyard available to the public, because it allowed the cathedral to open it just as we were out of lockdown and utilize this new outdoor space, which actually in Carlisle, there's not that many secluded kind of courtyard spaces where you can kind of grab a coffee. You can see here the final facade and kind of how the light throughout the day changes on the elevation. And here the connection between the Fratry building and the cathedral at the back. Internally, we chose to render the walls with lime plaster, which kind of complement the color of the stone to try to make it as solid as possible. And here it is at night, which I think is my last slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. It's fantastic to see it, especially lit up at night. So what is it about natural stone that really enables you to span the new and the heritage parts of the building? Was it a bit of a no-brainer in a way?
To be honest, we hesitated. At first, we wanted to do it in precast concrete, just because the shape of the elevation perhaps was easier made in precast concrete. But Carlisle has got a lot of concrete new building, and therefore it was really badly received by the locals. We also started thinking about weathering of concrete versus stone, which would weather more naturally and therefore be more in keeping with the context.
And do you think then this is going to kind of change your attitude towards the use of stone, natural stone, going forward in other projects?
Definitely. We've been looking at a couple of new projects in collaboration with the stonemasonry company, where we're trying to do load-bearing stone walls rather than just self-supporting. So yeah, it's something that we're still developing as a practice.
Good to hear. Well, Ingrid, thank you very much. Give Ingrid a round of applause.
Great. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank
Thanks.
you. So now, for the final presentation, I would like to introduce to the stage Robert Kennett, who is Director of Eric Parry Architects, and he's going to be presenting Chelsea Barracks Phase 4 in London, because it was the new build modern style stone cladding winner. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you. And as in the title of the award, this is a new build in the modern style, which we find a little bit difficult as a category. but I would like to explain how we've used stone, natural stone, within a master plan, because Chelsea Barracks is a larger than just the individual projects that we've delivered, and in a way that we need to start with an understanding of the projects that we have completed. The red line shows phases 4 and 6, which are around the new master plan, which is a set of streets and squares. Importantly, running north-south, up and down on the plan, is the new route through the barracks. We've got to remember this was an enclosed space for the military, opened up to be a residential mixed-use scheme. Our 3 buildings, which you see at the centre of the slide, buildings 6, 7 and 8 as they were in the master plan, are apartment buildings, 8 stories high, and they face to the east a new square, Fifield Square, on the left of the drawing, and Mulberry Square, which is this new route running north-south to connect to Chelsea Bridge Road, onto which Building 7, our most prominent building, is. We have the benefit that this is the centre or the entrance to the barracks, so it's the opening in the very large London plane trees which line Chelsea Bridge Road. So we have 3 buildings in this phase which we have completed. They were finished at the end of 2021, so again a project that was delivered through the pandemic, and I'll come on to that as well given the issues of quality. So this is a view on that new route through the centre of the site, with the only retained building of the site, which is the military chapel, a listed building which is now used by the Prince's Foundation. Here you see the first of the buildings. These are long buildings, they're 60 metres long. They're all clad in stone, natural stone, and this shows how we're moderating the length of that building with the introduction of vertical groupings of balconies, which obviously provide residential amenity to the residents. This building provides 48 apartments. What you'll see here is it's a facade which is layered. I should have pointed out that in phase 1, which was a natural stone award-winning by Squire Architects, the material used there was Portland stone. We followed them and we reviewed the choice of the natural stone within the parameters of the master plan. We elected, partly commercially, but also for the opportunity to use Portuguese limestone at large formats. So you'll see here an elevation, which is articulation of the domestic, the living rooms of the flats, and it may not be very clear, but those are over 3 metre wide lintels, which are self-supporting to make those facade openings, which are recessive in terms of a series of planes of stone. You'll also see that the balconies have cantilevered support, so that's a true cantilever in terms of the stone. All of the buildings are concrete framed. We have the benefit, that the value of these properties allows the level of detail that we've achieved here, but also simply that we had a window opening in a concrete wall, which makes for a much more robust building and also allows for the layers of that facade, which include obviously the outer stone facing, the insulation we require now for modern regulations, fire stopping, and also drainage to the facade, so that you'll see the windows there have a metal sill which drains back to internal drainage within the cavity to ensure we have excellent weathering on that facade type. The eastern building, which faces onto the new square, Fifield Square, actually introduces another material. We were very keen actually to give a diversity to the 3 buildings, and this is the first time that brick has been used on the apartment buildings. We used a lovely brick from Caulfield, which is now unfortunately not available, and that introduces in a way the historical link to some of the Belgravia houses and that Georgian heritage. But it's an apartment building, so you'll see it's structured with a limestone base. I should have said it's the Cabeza Viada stone, the black brick, and then an attic of the same stone, and then the top, which was prescribed by the master plan, is actually in metal. So the penthouses, there are 2 on each of the blocks, are in anodized aluminium as metal. We've introduced, importantly for the sort of sense of gardening in the master plan, these loggias and pergolas, which will be planted and maintained by the estate for those penthouse owners. This then is the principal building. It's right at the centre of the master plan. It's the building 7, and it is a fully stone building. Here we were able to introduce stone as a facade structural element. It's not as true. You may know our building in Finsbury Square, which is fully load-bearing in terms of the capacity of the piers. This is an evolved version of that for this client, and I'll explain how we did the engineering of those piers in a little while. But you see it's structured with a colonnade, 2-storey high, that affords fantastic balconies for the second floor residents, but also screens the apartments which are on the ground and first floors from the busy road. You'll see at the base there also the historic railings, which are the other part of the listing of the Barracks site. The conceit, in a way, of this facade is that we've got continuous glazing behind those stone piers. The master plan defined that we had to have vertically proportioned windows, so it wasn't a modernist scheme in that respect, but we were able, with this layering of the structure and glazing, to achieve really good aspect for the apartments on this prominent facade. Here you'll see that depth, where you can see that the front and the rear of the pier is exposed, and we have these very elegant curved glass balustrades that gives security and protection to the occupiers who have big sliding windows to use those shallow recesses. And then this is the elevation. So to explain, we have a simple rhythm of stone piers. They're about 1 metre wide, 400 deep, and they support precast concrete from Belgium, from Tacoma, which create those balconies. They're in self-compacting concrete, so they have a fair-faced finish on 3 sides, and then we pave the actual terraces with a granite, and again we've very carefully weathered those so that you don't get weathering on the outside of the building. As I said, this is not exactly the same as our Finsbury Square project, in that we actually have a concrete core to the piers. This was after some testing with the BRE, and it was chosen partly because of the properties being residential, that we would actually have connections through concrete and stainless steel. But what we did, and we worked with Zerelmi, who were the masons for the whole project, and LSI, who were the providers of the Cabezas limestone, a very tight quality control procedure to create these piers, where you see we stack 4 or 5 of these C-shaped units. We had to do that at their works in Portugal. They were then shipped to Belgium. They were then, the castings were made, and then they were brought to London in terms of a sequence. And to point out here, as the other people have demonstrated, it's so important to work with your trades and your main contractors. And we were working with Multiplex, who were delivering this project. And as you can see here, we've got two stages of a structure. On the right, you can see the incomplete post-tensioned concrete frame, and then we're bringing up the load-bearing facade alongside it. This allowed the concrete to go up quickly and the facade to follow at its own pace, something that again on the main facades we were also able to do, because you build your concrete structure and then you follow at your right pace to create the quality of the facades. So this is before the precast concrete beams would be placed. They were 6 metre long, so these are big elements, and then it would be stitched into the post-tension concrete slab with a pour strip of concrete slab. This then meant that we were able to achieve the quality that you see in this photograph. This is the corner to Mulberry Square, where we transition between the depth of the load-bearing facade to the shallower facade, which is more traditional in that sense. Coming now to the colonnade itself, which runs the 60 metres of this building, but actually wraps the whole building. So it's a bit like a belt at the second floor. We had a little bit of an issue because we were wondering what the best use of this was in terms of an offer or a gift to the estate. There was no art commission money for this, so Eric and the team brought forward a proposal for an inscription. And actually, there is now a poem by the poet Pele Cox that runs the whole way around the perimeter of our building. That's 170 meters. And it's made up of, it's an assembly of English poetry, which is related to the particularities of our site. An interesting process, almost collage creation of this inscription. And that was done and carved with CNC into the large blocks. These are 3 meter long, nearly 1.5 meters high elements. And this is where we had the benefit of the spend at Chelsea Barracks because of the investment and the values of these apartments. So this shows some of the prototyping that we did in terms of CNC cutting. It's a very traditional way of obviously doing a V-cut to have a clear letter defined in stone. There were 3 sizes that we tested. We worked with Tom Perkins, a sign writer and carver, to do the font and set out all of the letters on 170 meters of inscription. We also show the photo there of Pele and Eric Parry himself alongside the colonnade, where you'll see both the length of that inscription on the second floor, but also the drums and round columns that hold up that colonnade. Those are solid. So it was very nice as an architect to say to Zerelmi, let's just do this really simply. They're abstracted, they're not classical in their full detailing, so they're simply stacked with stability with a great big stainless steel prong at the bottom. And again, working with the landscape by Gustafsson Porter Bowman, who have worked on the whole estate. This is Bourne Walk, so it's a continuous public route. You are able to get onto this site. It's not private, it's not gated. It is just being completed in phases. So this Bourne Walk is now open, and it has a rill in the Delank granite that runs along the whole length of that part of the site. So we're very pleased that we've been able to integrate both very good stones from Europe in terms of the Portuguese, granites from Spain, also stones that are from the UK. Portland wasn't chosen, but that is expressed very clearly in the phase 1 itself. So a quick rattle through that. As I said, we'd like to just acknowledge the input of the team that we worked with, and we should also say that FMDC, the facade consultants, were key to ensuring that the detail that we've been able to embed into those facades is the quality and technically compliant in itself.
Thank you very much. Really, really fascinating. Certainly a project where you don't want to get your spelling wrong, isn't it? When you've got a description of that time. But obviously it's such a prestigious project, Chelsea Barracks. What made stone such a good choice, really, and such a strong choice for this?
Well, we didn't have much choice because it was part of the master plan materials. So it is about that stature and quality for, these are very expensive residences, and it's also simply the important site that it is. It's next to Chelsea Hospital. It has to deliver the quality, and stone gives the longevity, of course, as well.
Absolutely, and also the integration with different materials. You talked about the brick, talked about the concrete. Just how easy is it to integrate with those different materials?
Well, it's all about the supply chain and the skill and the craft. Zerelmi ended up being the linchpin for concrete, comes to stone, comes to glass, comes to metal, comes to windows, and that process of everybody drawing their bit in terms of a process. These are buildings that are not like construction management where you stop something and start something new. These are proper integrated elevations, so you have to have that design coordination, and that was delivered through Multiplex's design managers.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time, Robert.
Thank you.
And also thank you to all of the speakers here today. But Robert, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you as well to Ingrid and Hilary and Neil for sharing their insights into these really award-winning projects. Now, we are approaching the moment when the inaugural Industry Choice Award will be presented, and we're also going to hear a few words from Chris Kelsey, President of the Stone Federation, and he'll be making the presentation. But before we hear from him, let's have a quick refresh of all the 9 category winners before announcing the final winner. So we have, in the new build modern style stone cladding category, as we've just heard, Chelsea Barracks Phase 4 in London. In the new build traditional style stone masonry category, we have the joint winner, Lancing Chapel, West Porch, Lancing. Also in the new build traditional style stone masonry category, the joint winner, Low Barrow, Oxfordshire. In the repair and restoration commercial category, Cameron House, Loch Lomond. In the repair and restoration ecclesiastical category, as we've heard, we have the Fratry, Carlisle Cathedral in Carlisle. In the interiors commercial and residential category, Lenaboy, Malahide, County Dublin, Ireland. Great presentation we've just heard. Also in the landscaping commercial and public realm category, as Neil was telling us about, Elephant Springs, Elephant Park in London. In the craftsmanship category, Woburn Abbey, North and South Screen Walls, Woburn. And finally, in the carving, lettering and sculpture category, Wainsgate Urn, Hebden Bridge. So now, please do invite up onto the stage Chris Kelsey, who is going to say a few words. Chris Kelsey, of course, President of the Stone Federation. Welcome, Chris. Thank you.
Hopefully you can't read that from that side. Good afternoon, everybody. It is an honour to be able to present the Natural Stone Awards Industry Choice today. The 2022 Natural Stone Awards saw a record number of projects entered from across the length and breadth of the United Kingdom and covering everything from cladding and restoration projects through to interiors and landscapes. The awards celebrate the very best that the natural stone industry has to offer, and you only need to look at the various category winners that are in the running for today's prize to see just how beautiful, versatile and sustainable natural stone is. If you were able to join us for the 2022 Natural Stone Awards ceremony, you will know that we make a point of recognising and celebrating the whole project team. We know that a successful natural stone project requires the collaboration expertise of everyone from the companies quarrying and supplying the stone, to those working and fitting the stone, the project managers, main contractors, right through to the architects and designers creating the vision for the scheme, and even the clients whose decisions can have a huge influence on the delivery of successful natural stone projects. So today's Industry Choice Award, while being received by the project architect, is a recognition of the whole project team. So without further ado, we can announce that the winner of the Natural Stone Awards Industry Choice Award is...
Well, we're going to do it in reverse order. A little bit of anticipation okay. We're going to build here. So in third place, it is the Fratry. In second place, Lenaboy. And in first place, the 2023 Industry Choice Award winner, UK's favourite stone project, is going to Chelsea Barracks. Congratulations. And I'd really like to say, though, congratulations to all the category winners, but also let's congratulate everybody involved in this project as Robert joins us on stage to receive the award. Well done, Robert.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, great.
But also, let's also congratulate, well, we'll have a photo first. Then I want to really congratulate everybody involved in this project because, as Robert was pointing out, this really is a real group effort. So congratulations to the client, Qatari DR Europe, also the architect, Eric Parry Architects, and all the team who's been working with Robert, the main contractor, Multiplex, the principal stone contractor, Zerelny, and the stone suppliers, LS Stone and Gruppinar. And so really just a big congratulations finally to Robert, who's got his hands full.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all being here to see this award being presented. I'd really like to thank you all for being part of this event today. And don't go away, because you are all invited for lunch. So please do find Richard or Harvey, and they can point to you the way to the lunch to celebrate the winners. And also remember to come back at 2 o'clock, because we're going to be looking at the ethical stone register and speaking to experts really involved in that and showing why it's really moving the dial. So thanks again and congratulations.